South African Football Association President Danny Jordaan and two co-accused have been granted 20,000 rand bail each by the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court sitting in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court on Johannesburg's East Rand. Now, Jordaan, who's the SAFA, along with the SAFA CFO and businessman, were arrested yesterday, and they are facing charges of fraud and theft amounting to 1.3 million rand. And it's alleged that between 2014 and 2018, Jordaan used the organization's resources for personal gain. Now, this included hiring a private security company for his personal protection and a public relations company. This is said to have happened without the authorization from the SAFA Board. Now, former NEC member at the South African Football Association, Lefore Lerefolo, joins us now in studio to discuss this matter. Thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much. Good morning to the SABC viewers.
Let's just locate where you were during the time of these allegations, because you formerly were at the School of Excellence, an NEC member with SAFA, but during the tenure of this particular case, so to speak, between 2014 and 2018, when things were said to have happened, where were you?
I served in the SAFA NEC from 2009 until 2013. In 2009 until 2022, I was at the SAFA Transnet School of Excellence, where I was a member of the board and subsequently chaired the board. So I was involved in the structures, but not at the SAFA NEC itself.
Mr. Lerefolo, do these allegations come as a surprise to you? I mean, it was very public when Jennifer Ferguson accused Danny Jordaan of rape, and we saw how SAFA subsequently handled that particular matter involving their president. But given the allegations that have now flowed from that, were you surprised by it?
Look, the allegations are not a surprise because they have been in the media. You will recall that sitting NEC members at the time are the ones that actually voiced these allegations, including the CEO, Dennis Mambo. There was the Vice President, Gay Mukwena, and Vice President, Willie Muka. So the allegations are not a surprise. The surprise is that the NPA has found substance enough and says that there is a case for people to answer. But beyond the surprise, it's a little bit tragic.
It's tragic, but many people are saying that this could perhaps be ascribed to internal politics within SAFA and the broader football fraternity. Do you subscribe to that, or do you think that there is actual, because at least from the court case that's playing out now, it would seem as though there is substantiated evidence. But on the allegations of this perhaps being politics within football, how do you respond?
Well, if your vice president and your CEO are writing dossiers to CAF and FIFA and all of these places, it's definitely internal politics. The issue is whether there's substance to it. And like I say, the worrying thing is that the authorities in this country have looked at it and said there is a case to answer to, which they think they can win beyond reasonable doubt. So the politics are always there. SAFA NEC is a political space. So people that are talking politics, it's the nature of the business. But there is still a requirement by all of us serving in there to act ethically within the law and all of those things, the prescripts that are both in the country and in the SAFA statutes.
And I was reading through those prescripts, and they're quite detailed, very simply written for all to understand who are associated with SAFA, with FIFA, with football. So in terms of how this is playing out now and looking at the ethics and the integrity of the organization, what's your reading on that?
The thing about this, when you go through those statutes, is that there is a number of measures that are supposed to manage these issues. There's the Ethics Committee, Finance Committee, but specifically on these issues. Dr. Jordaan serves in the SAFA NEC, which holds everybody, including Dr. Jordaan, to account. Gronie works for SAFA. The NEC must hold him account, and the CEO. Now, these measures exist, but we have been speaking about this, that the SAFA NEC in itself is dysfunctional. That's why at this point, the person that should be explaining what happened formally is whoever is the chairperson of the Finance Committee to say, what happened at the time, was this matter ventilated? What we know is that Willie Muka said to the country openly that I tried to raise the matters with the SAFA NEC and it was not ventilated. It may very well be that it was because they wanted to allow the NPA to have a look. But the reality is that they still have to act. And we are here because the SAFA NEC has not done its job. And by the way, this does not only apply to financial issues. Our issues has always been football development. Because the SAFA NEC, not all of them, but most of them clearly have not been doing what they are expected to do. Hold people to account, ensure that things are happening for the development of football. For all of us in football, we know that when you go to the regions, which is SAFA's core mandate, football is dead. The football that is being played is by old people who have money to organize themselves. It does nothing for our talent pipeline.
So, Mr. Lerefolo, when you say the SAFA NEC is dysfunctional, let's unpack that a little bit more. I get what you're talking about, the development and structures, but to what degree is that NEC dysfunctional?
So, in the first instance, if internally such serious issues are raised, we would expect that SAFA NEC deals with it and tells the country something. Not smear campaign, but says, here are the issues, we have looked at them, this is our report, and this is what it says. Maybe to pronounce on it through their auditors, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, we have not had anything from the accounting body SAFA NEC to the extent that the NPA then looked at these things and said there's a case to answer. You'll recall that 2018, these matters were raised. Beyond that, there was a raid at SAFA. Beyond that, but we have not had the SAFA NEC. And I don't expect the president of SAFA to address these issues where allegations are being made about him. But you express beyond, this is a smear campaign, this is disgruntlement and all sorts of things, you expect substance. Have you done an investigation? Has the ethics committee looked at this? Is there a report? So that we can talk to issues that come from professional bodies meant to do that. But somebody must cause these things to happen. Beyond Dr. Jordaan, who's being accused. That has not happened. That's the dysfunction.
And also, I suppose, at this point, looking at those in the dock, the absence of the CEO there, because if you think of documents that would have been signed through a procurement process, the CEO would have been invoked as per the guidelines in the statutes on procurement, that when you look at category, I think it's C and D, which stipulates anything above 250,000 Rand, that would require concurrence from the CEO in SAFA. And it seems as though the CEO is not part of this particular setup. But then again, he's one of the people, as you pointed out, the then CEO, Dennis Mumble, who raised this matter.
Remember, Dennis Mumble said he was bypassed. So at the end of the day, in an ordinary situation when there's this kind of alleged malfeasance, you would expect the CEO and the CFO to account. But there is that gap where Dennis says that he was bypassed. Whether he was bypassed or not, it's a matter to be determined in court. But it is worrisome that he actually wrote, black and white, to the SAFA NEC to say, I have a problem. And I think these vice presidents at the time supported him. But nothing that we know of has come out in the public that says we have looked at this matter, here is what we have investigated, and this is where we are. It is worrisome. It says that also, was there ignoring of the rules? Was there ignoring of the prescripts of SAFA? If this is what was ignored, what else has been ignored? And you will recall that in that dossier, they spoke about many other things. It brings to mind, are some of these things also true, or what was going on? You know, because it is quite worrisome. And I want to put the focus that, yes, Gronie and Dr. Jordaan may have been accused, they're accused right now, but at the end of the day, we elect an NEC, who is a board, to actually hold people to account. And
I'm glad you raised that, because that level of accountability also has to be put under the spotlight, because there was need for board approval as well, given the amount in question. So how did that not happen?
Dennis Mumble says that it didn't happen. But what I know, and what I know is that sometimes the people that sit in the NEC don't do their work. They don't read the documents, they don't ask the questions. This is the reality in the SAFA NEC. And if you look back at all these people that have made allegations, they're not in the NEC anymore. they have been moved aside. Most of the people that are sitting there will come out and say we were not there at the time. Whether they know that they have to continue with the business, they inherit what has happened is another matter. But in reality, that is the problem. We had reports on last week about SAFA NEC members talking about loans that they don't know about in the NEC to individuals. Out from SAFA themselves, we keep hearing that they don't really follow the prescripts. They don't really follow governance rules. We don't know whether, to what extent does it help SAFA, to what extent are they breaking the law. But we know that it's a thing that happens.
So with that said, looking at the case in point, Mr. Jordaan, the CFO, and of course the service provider who are currently in court, that's a matter that will now play itself out in the courts of law. But regarding other allegations and this dysfunction, as you put it, within the NEC of SAFA, if people are not doing their jobs, if they are not accountable for the actions or inaction on their part at the SAFA board level, what should happen? What does FIFA say? What does the SAFA statute say in this regard?
The SAFA statute empowers the NEC to act in the interest of SAFA. And they can call an emergency NEC meeting and take a view and act. But the reality is that the problem now is so deep. SAFA has been changing statutes for the last 10 years. Every time they change the statutes to suit their needs, right? We are at a situation where, in my view, FIFA should come in and do normalization. And the reason I go to FIFA is because ordinarily we should be asking our government to intervene. If inside an association, a federation, your NPA structures have said that there is reason to be worried, there must be action also coming from the Department of Sports, perhaps through SASCOC, to say how do we fix this problem? Because there is a problem. And we can see that that problem is manifesting itself by lack of development in football. We know that it doesn't happen, those of us that are tasked with that kind of output. But the reality is, beyond that, we know that there were reports that CAF had asked SAFA in light of the raid to explain themselves. We don't know what happened there. Maybe CAF were asked to hold back, but action needs to be taken. At this point, SAFA should just be put under normalization, which is a nice FIFA word for administration, and then we start at the bottom and we ensure that right from the LFAs there is things that are happening. Because as we speak, despite people taking loans, despite what we are being told about people taking money, LFAs and regions are not being given the grants that they need to run football. And it has really ground to a complete halt.
But there's an equally disturbing situation and a problem, because if the money is not trickling down for development to the LFAs, why are they quiet? Why are they not raising these issues?
That is the problem of football, in that we play football despite everything else. It's such a sport that even without proper organization, people keep playing. And the difficulty also, you will see it in the quality of the players we produce, right? In the same country as the Springboks, the quality of the players is not what it should be. People just play, and we obsess about 24-year-olds breaking into teams. There was a story about a 30-year-old saying they shouldn't be getting salary reductions. Because for us, development, you break into national teams and into professional teams when you are much old. So the momentum of the love of football in the country just carries. People just play. And at the end of the day, it's easier to just continue playing and try and see if you can get into a national team, into a professional team to make a living, than to fight with SAFA. Because people have literally given up.
And that's the situation we're told. And of course, keeping an eye on this, which is a developing story at this point, Mr. Lefore Lerefolo, who is a former NEC member at the South African Football Association, SAFA, speaking to us about the implications of SAFA President Danny Jordaan's arrest and court appearance for alleged fraud and money embezzlement, and the overall health of the organization, and says it should be put under normalization. We'll hear your thoughts to our question of the day.